Good evening and welcome to Legacy After the Locker Room. I'm your host, Kayla Bradham, here tonight with Major League Baseball veteran Todd Coffey. Good evening, Todd.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. Todd, I want to start right off with Todd Coffey, the little boy playing baseball. Did you play any other sports or was baseball always your thing?
I played 1 year of football, and it was fun. It was just really something to keep me, out of the house, something to do. But more than that, I've been playing baseball my entire life. Since as far as I can remember, there's pictures of me as a little baby wearing a diaper and doing a leg kick, pitching, and it's just something that has always been ingrained in me. My grandfather, my dad, they love baseball. My grandfather played for Varsity Owls, which is a mill league team, and it's just something that's been ingrained in me since birth.
I love it. So take us through your career a little bit because you got drafted right out of high school, right?
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, to be honest, I had no idea really what getting drafted meant. I just know I wanted to play Major League Baseball. I was 17-year-old when I graduated high school. I couldn't even sign my contract. My mom and dad had to sign it. So it was something that was amazing to me, and I had no idea what I was in for. But I remember um, this is back before cell phones and anything else. The only way you could find out if you were drafted was the teams would call you up and say, "Hey, we drafted you." Well, I remember there was construction going on near my house, and the construction crew cut the phone lines. So I had no idea, and the draft was already over, and I'd went to the Legion game that night. And I remember my brother coming up. He finally went somewhere, got on the internet, and saw where I got drafted. And I hadn't even talked to the teams yet. I just saw my brother brought a piece of paper to get drafted in the 41st round by the Reds. Um, and it was just crazy. And I still hadn't talked to him because my phone lines were cut. And, no cell phones. That was the only way team could get a hold of you. Well, I remember Steve Crane, he actually was driving by where I lived, and he stopped by the house, knocked on the door, and said, "Hey, we've drafted you." And it was crazy. And I remember him saying that, we wanted to draft and follow you. When I said, "Well, that's great, but I want to play Major League Baseball. I don't want to. I want to forego college. I want to play right now." And back then, that's when they had to offer you a contract. Now they don't even have to offer a player a contract, but then they had to offer you a contract, and they offered me it, and I signed it. And he said, "Well, you're signing this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm signing it. I'm going to go ahead and learn from the professionals, and I'm going to be in the big leagues when I'm 24." And he said, "All right, hold on." He walked outside, and he's like, "I got to make a phone call." So he ended up using our phone, making a phone call, calling Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson said, "Hey, congratulations, all that." And, "Hey, we wanted to draft and follow you." I said, "Well, that's great, but I'm signing." He said, "Well, you're not supposed to sign this. You're supposed to draft and follow. We'll give you more money and sign a bonus next year." And I said, "Well, I don't care. I wanted to play." And he said, he tried to convince me not to sign. And I said, "Well, I'm signing. I've already signed it. I signed it. I'm going, and that's the way it's going to happen." And I remember him telling me years later that he had to go to Marge Schott and say, "Hey, I signed a 41st rounder. I'm gonna need an extra, money for his signing bonus and his salary." And Marge Schott, she was known to be a penny pincher, and he said she wasn't too happy about it. But no, that was it. I said that I'm going, and I knew I wasn't going to play right away. I knew I was going to learn because I was 17. Like I said, my birthday is not till September. So when I went out to Billings, Montana, I'm 17 years old, and I go out there with all these college kids. This is before the Reds even had their rookie leagues in Florida for the younger kids. This was all rookie advanced, and I went out there and was on the inactive roster, and just sat there and learned.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So what a story. And I don't know many kids who get drafted, at the age of 17. So that just says how good you are. So take us through 8 different teams. Tell us a little bit about that, Todd.
It's hard to believe. It really is. I remember getting drafted, Reds, spending many years with them, and then just the connections, the players, and you always have a connection with the first team you're drafted with. You just will. You always will, and it just is what it is. And I remember then being told, "Hey, you're going to Milwaukee." I remember Gord Ash calling me up and say, "Hey, you're coming to Milwaukee. Do you want to pitch for us?" I said, "Well, of course." So I remember going on over to Milwaukee, and that was crazy. That was 2008. come in, and it's around the middle of the playoff push for the Milwaukee Brewers, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I remember pitching in 9 games, did outstanding, and just helping that team make the playoffs. I wasn't there the whole year. I contributed just a little bit, and Del Swain was telling me that how great it was to come in and just do that, and that's what led to a contract next year with him, because I pitched in 9 great games and helped them make it onto the playoffs, and it was great. And Milwaukee is definitely a place that I love. Um, Great people, great city. It's really like a second home to me. That's when I ended up meeting my wife in Milwaukee. It's something special. And I was actually up in Milwaukee just about last week, actually, for Thanksgiving. Got to see the first snow of the year. I'm glad I'm back down here where it's 70. Um, I can't really handle the cold too much. The wife loves it, but for me, cold's cold. And then we were spending a few years there in Milwaukee. Then left free agency over to the Nationals, which was a great experience. I'm a big history nut, so to be able to be in a city with historical value, the Smithsonian, all the monuments was really great. I lived in Arlington, being able to go to the cemetery. I tell you what, going to the monuments at night is something everybody should do. It's less crowded for one, but it's just so peaceful, just so relaxing to go there. And I remember going there a few times after some rough outings and just sitting there at the Lincoln Memorial and just relaxing and really taking the time to, soak in everything and relax before I went home. And then going out to LA after that. And that was funny because Deshaun Watson was actually part of the organization there. And he actually called me up and we ended up striking a deal. So I went to LA. And unfortunately, only about 2 months in, I ended up having my second Tommy John and missed that whole season. But still to be out there for the 2 months was incredible. LA was definitely, I love the food out there. Everything about LA is nice, minus the traffic. I don't like taking 2 hours to go 10 miles. That was a little crazy. But other than that, it's beautiful out there. And I've been fortunate. And then going to Seattle was really cool. I remember coming back from the Tommy John, and they gave me an opportunity to come back, which was great. Ended up having a great season there. The city's totally different, and I've been fortunate, and including all the minor league cities I've been to, I've really, traveled a lot since I was 17 years old, traveling all over the U.S. Spent a month in Mexico City playing baseball. Get the culture down there was totally different, and gave me a little more perspective on a lot of the Latin players who come into the States and play. For me, going the opposite, going to their culture, trying to learn their language, and give me a little more perspective on them and how tough it really is to the language barrier. Even if you speak a little bit of the language, it is definitely a different culture. And to see that was definitely something I loved and grew upon on me.
Yeah, I love it. Todd, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the minor league baseball players and how they were affected through COVID. But before I do, I remember you pitching in Milwaukee, and I remember you just running to the plate full speed. And I've even posted Milwaukee had the coffee time memes and everything. Tell us a little bit about that story, because it just, you just boom out of the gate to the mound.
It really started in Double A. I was closing in Chattanooga. We were down 8 runs, so I was like, I'm on relax mode. I'm not pitching. I'm the closer. We ended up scoring 9 runs, so we got a 1-run lead, and I had to get loose. I mean, quickly. So I was like, I'm going to run out there a little bit harder just to get the adrenaline going. So I did that. Ran out there, and I liked the way I felt. Sorry. I liked the way I felt. I ran out there, and then all of a sudden it turned into something that was a routine for me. But also, I get this adrenaline spike, and then before I throw my first pitch, I get to kind of come down from that adrenaline, and so I can really focus. So it had a dual purpose behind it. Um, One, the fans loved it; they really did. They got into it, so I got into it a little bit more. And two, it gave me that chance to get relaxed. I get that spike all of a sudden from running out there, and then calm down, because many times you see it, a reliever throws one pitch, home run, game's over. I mean, as a reliever, you're either a hero or a goat. I mean, that's it. You're getting booed off the field or cheered off the field. So either way, you have to be ready to focus on that first pitch. And I remember going in Milwaukee. I did it, and they put the clock on it, and then I come out to the Ultimate Warrior music, for all you wrestling fans, and it just stuck from there. And Mike Fasalo did it. He said, "Hey, go out to this music," and I was like, "Hey, let's do it." And then the fans got into it. I got into it more. I loved it. And the coolest thing that ever happened with the run was actually when I was with the Nationals. The next year, I was with the Nationals, and we come to play Milwaukee. And I run out there, and they played my music and put the clock on the board as a visiting player. And you do not see that at all. And just the respect that I had for that organization goes leaps and bounds. And just the way they treated players is first class. And any player who has a chance to go play for the Milwaukee Brewers really should, because that organization is something special as far as the way the fans treat you. Um, and it's fun. How many times you see fans tailgate on a Wednesday noon game and have 30,000 out there? I mean, that's
What,
impressive.
when it's 40 degrees in April, right?
Yeah, yeah. It does get a little cold, and I did find out there's no heaters. It's just a dome. It covers the stadium, but there's no heaters, so it's still cold.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, because I have great memories of you doing that. And for anybody, the Ultimate Warrior running full speed into the ring, same thing, just so great. And the energy is fabulous. Here's an area where the energy isn't so great, Todd. Talking about the minor leaguers and COVID and just my experience in working with some of them being stuck, trying to find ways to send money home to their families. Can you speak about that a little bit? I know were retired during COVID, but you know what it was like for those guys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely difficult to be able to be out there in a time where you have uncertainty. You don't know if you're playing or not playing, for one. You don't know if you're getting a paycheck or not. Even though minor leagues is, it's not much of a paycheck, but it still is a paycheck. Um, I'm happy to see that organizations are going to be paying for housing. That was one of the biggest hurdles that we all ran through in the minor leagues, was housing, and then definitely just the pay. But it is what it is. It's the ability to go out there, and I believe these guys, to see what they're made of, to have that adversity, because everything in life is about adversity, about achieving above that. If you don't have adversity, you're never going to get better, and that's with anything you do in life. And I believe the years in the minor league have taught me to appreciate things that I do have, and to appreciate the people that are around you, to support you and help you. And you really do find out, who's in your corner when you have situations where you need help, or you're in trouble, or you're chasing your dream. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, and I wouldn't tell anyone to chase. I mean, if you want to chase your dream, chase your dream. I mean, that's what's most important. If you don't make it, you don't make it. But the things that I always wanted to look at was, I never wanted to run into the what ifs. You can never answer a what if question. Well, what if I'd have stuck out there? What if I would have tried a little harder? What if I'd have just been able to do a little bit more, work out a little bit harder, or what ifs? You can't answer them. You look in the mirror and you can't answer a what if question. So everything that I do, I give it everything I got. I know it's cliche, but you have to give everything you got into it, because at the end of the day, end of life, you can't answer a what if question. And I don't want to be sitting here 30 years later looking in the mirror, man, what if I'd have tried this? What if I'd have done this? And I can't answer those questions. So that's why I left everything out there. And I think for the minor leaguers now, that's something they have to look at, is the you don't want to have to answer a what if. I mean, you're 20 years old right now. You have a long life ahead of you. Go for it, stick it out, try it. You never know. I mean, I'm a 41st round draft pick. Shouldn't have been in the big leagues. I should have been there for 1 year and then released. You never know the opportunities that are going to happen. You have to make your own opportunities. Once you get drafted and you're in the minor leagues, you have to make your own opportunities.
I love it. So, Todd, speaking of adversity and chasing your dreams, um, I say it this way: it's really hard when you retire and nobody's cheering for you when you're taking out the garbage, right? Tell us a little bit about retirement for you.
Uh, Retirement from the game is hard. For me, I stayed on and tried to push as hard as I could. I kept trying to go and go and go, and even though my body was telling me it was time to go, my mind and my heart weren't. And I remember having the hard conversations with my agent Rick Thurman, and he said, you've given everything you've got. It's time to retire. That was hard. It was definitely not easy. And then when you do retire, it's not the same. It really is hard. Every year, spring training time, I struggle, and the players and guys know what I'm talking about who's played the game, even at a high school level or any level, you miss it. And it's not so much the grind you miss, but it's the camaraderie, the team, and everybody pushing for one goal. And you miss it, and it's tough, and it definitely is. And a lot of guys struggle with, retirement. I mean, I struggled with it, you know, years after hard, and I still struggle with it now. Still, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe if I go out there and work out a little bit, I can give it another shot. And you see all the time, guys. They go out there, they try to work out. It's like, you know what? It's not there anymore.
Yeah. So tell us what life brought you after retirement, besides a beautiful wife and a handsome family. Tell us a little bit about the jobs that Todd Coffey has been working since retirement.
So I was very fortunate. I definitely wanted to give back to the game, stay in the game of some capacity, but also want to be around my family in some capacity. Because years of traveling from going from February to October, it's very difficult on a family and kids. So for me, it was I was fortunate enough to connect with a Perfect Game, uh, and I'm actually a national scouting coordinator for Perfect Game, and it's great to be on an organization that is there to help the kids. I mean, that's our number one goal is get the kids college exposure, pro exposure, find every kid a place for a scholarship to play baseball after high school. And there is a high school for every kid. There is a college for every kid to play after. And that's one thing I love watching these kids and help them the ability to move on to the next part of their career in baseball.
All right. And so I just want to speak to you as a pitcher, Todd, because we want these kids to get into college. We also want to protect their throwing arm, protect their elbow. What is your advice to parents with college age kids wanting them to get those scholarships, but also wanting them to be healthy enough to play?
I think a lot of it is there is no cookie cutter. There is no going to Google. Hey, what's my arm care program? Okay, let's follow this arm care strengthening program. You really have to find out what works for each individual player, and figure out what works for them. And I think that's the biggest thing. You have to learn the kid's body and understand exactly what they need to improve on, strengthen on. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes less is better than more, more, more. But you just have to find out what works for you. Now, I think the biggest thing is you have to go out there and understand that this is a kid's game. At the end of the day, these kids need to have fun, number one. And I see a lot of parents don't realize, hey, let them have fun. When it's time to practice, yeah, it's time to work, time to get a little better. But when it's a game time, let them have fun. Go out there and play the game because I can tell you right now, big leaguers have fun with it. They're not out there all the time. This is a job. They're having fun, and it's a game.
Yeah, Todd, thank you so much for that. I want to take just a quick moment, remind our listeners this is the Legacy After the Locker Room podcast, powered by Sports Philanthropy Network. I'm your host, Kayla Bradham, here tonight with Major League Baseball alumni Todd Coffey. Todd, one of the things that I really am curious about, the biggest lesson you've learned in your baseball career, because it's just so vast and so expansive. What's the biggest lesson you learned playing ball?
Man, that is tough. That's a very tough question. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is to believe in myself. Um, at the end of the day, it is you out there. You do have to figure out how to get it done, and you have to be a self motivator, but you also have to figure out who you are. I love to tell people you need to take a walkabout. You need to take a time and really figure out who you are as a person. Figure out there's no one else can answer that question for you. A girlfriend, wife, mom, dad, friend, anybody. You can't ask them who you are. You have to take a walkabout, really take time, soul search, and figure out who you are as a person and what you want to achieve in life and goal, and really set that for yourself. And I think the biggest thing is people don't do that. They don't any walk of life. You need to just take a walkabout. That doesn't mean you have to go walk. That just means you need to really internalize, think, and figure out who you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering that. I think you're right. The other question that I'm really curious about, you said it earlier, excuse me, when you're a pitcher, you're either getting cheered off the field or you're getting booed off the field. I think a lot of college kids feel that pressure in many areas. It's not just sports. A lot of working parents feel that pressure in life, in their careers. Todd, what is the answer to dealing with that pressure? How did you deal with it?
Pressure is definitely something that's everywhere. Everybody has it now. I have pressure on me now. I think that the biggest way that I dealt with it was remembering you're never going to give them more than you can handle. There is definitely something you can handle. You know, you're never going to be faced with any situation that you're not supposed to happen. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that you're given adversity to try to achieve and to get over that adversity, whether it takes a minute or 10 years to get over that adversity. I think it's very important for people to just, like I said, I would go back and internalize and really take that walkabout and figure out everything that I can about myself, and then that helps me get through those moments.
Love it. Todd, speaking of adversity and not getting anything that you can't handle, I ask every guest on Legacy After the Locker Room to partner with me for my charity of choice, Special Olympics. Can we count on you for an autograph donation, Todd?
Absolutely, you can, no
Thank you so
question.
much. Thank you. Any idea what you might autograph? A baseball, maybe? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm gonna actually look and see what I have, but I'll find something that's game used, and I'll sign that because I think Special Olympics is a huge cause, um, and I think a lot of people don't realize it is. It's those kids out there, and when you watch them, they're out there having fun, and the biggest smile on their face. I remember doing many of um, things playing, and those were the biggest moments. Seeing those kids just a smile on their face, no worries in the world, and wouldn't it be great to just have no worries and to have that smile and that energy? So I'll find something game used, and I will definitely sign it.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for that. On behalf of Sports Philanthropy Network, I want to say thank you. Todd, I want to give you a moment. You've had multiple coaches. We'll leave it there. Tell us some of the best advice that you've gotten from coaches that you would give to other coaches or players.
I think the biggest thing that you have to realize is you're not a carbon copy. You can't try to be someone you're not. Um, I remember many a times a pitching coach would tell me, "Hey, why you throwing that pitch in the minor leagues?" And I said, "Well, because he got him out with that pitch." He said, "Yeah, but yours is terrible. You can't throw that pitch." I said, "Well, I know." So he said, "Well, stick with your strengths." And I think you have to stick with your strengths. Don't focus on the hitter's weaknesses. Don't focus on the pitcher's weaknesses. Don't focus on others' weaknesses. You need to focus on your strengths. And that's just with everything in life. I mean, if your strength is, typing words, uh, literature, stick with your strengths, and I think that a lot of people try to do too much and try to multitask, and it's good, but you need to find your niche and stick with your niche.
Yeah, because if I remember right, you had two really solid pitches, didn't you?
Yeah, I stuck with a sinker and a slider. That's it. I didn't do anything else. I tried changeup every once in a while, and it didn't work out, so I never did it. And I remember Ted Powers told me this was a rough outing. In the minor leagues, when you pitched and you give up home runs, they kept pitching. I given up 2 home runs in that inning, and I'm him come out there, and this was on the road, and I said, "Well, what are you going to tell me?" He said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just giving them time to reload the cannon for the next home run you give up." And that was after the game. I understood what he meant. I was trying to do something that I'm not used to and not good at, and I stuck with the rest of the year. I stuck with what I was strong with.
Wow. So speaking of that, I got to ask, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm so sorry, but best coach you ever had?
Oh, that is put me on the spot. Um, the best coach I ever had. Does it have to be a coach or can it be a player?
You can make it a player.
The best coach overall person I ever had was Trevor Hoffman. Um, he definitely brings out the best in every player, um, and him to be part of my life was amazing. But he's not just a Hall of Famer; he's a Hall of Fame person. And when I look at him, he literally elevated every single player on the team. He would speak, everybody would listen, and he taught me more not just about the game, but about life than any other person I have met.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that puts you on the spot 'cause I'm sure you had a bunch of great coaches and I'm sure you had some not so great ones as well. Todd, I want to give you a minute to just share a little bit of your heart with the listeners. I know some of the questions that I wanted to ask you tonight, but I'm sure I didn't ask you every question that's on your heart to share. So I want to give you a moment to just share your heart. Tell us more about what you're doing now or what's on your mind.
I think the biggest thing for me, I'm enjoying, loving, helping these kids, get on to the next part of their career, and just to be there and help these kids and watch them in tournaments in the weekend with perfect game and scout them. And but I think the biggest thing that I just want to tell everyone is when you see these kids on the field, we don't know what situations they're going through. um, when you're being negative toward them, or they're out there trying to compete. We don't know the situations they are in their lives. This 3 hours they spend on the baseball field may end up being the the best 3 hours of their day because we don't know those situations at home. So enjoy them, embrace them. You never know what situation someone's going through in life. So just be kind and courteous. That's the biggest thing for me. You don't know what these kids are going through, but if they're out on the ball field and they're having fun and they're smiling, uplift them. Even if you're playing against them, just uplift them.
And Todd, if people want to learn more about Perfect Game or want to look into it for their kids, where can they learn more?
Uh, we have a website. It's perfectgame.org. And I believe most people in the baseball have heard of us. Um, and I think it's an opportunity for people to go out there and really get an unbiased evaluation of their kids. And I think it's definitely good for them because when I evaluate someone, I'm honest, I'm straightforward with them because I believe honesty is definitely the greatest policy. I know that's cliche, but to tell these kids, hey, this is what you need to work on. This is what you need to work on here. And I think this is the level you're at now. And I think it helps them get better than just everyone saying, hey, you're the greatest.
Yeah, absolutely. Being honest with those kids is important so that they don't go to college thinking that they're the all star and everybody else is below them. I agree. Todd, if people want to follow you, connect with you, how can they do that? Where can they follow you on social media?
Yes. So my Twitter, I'm gonna make sure I say it here right. I'm gonna look it up, make sure because I do tell it wrong sometimes. It's at Coffee Time 60. That's my Twitter. That's the best way to follow me. Um, Actually, the only way to follow me. It's the main social media that I use. So it's at Coffee Time 60, and I'm always I will interact with fans, and I always have. To me, I got lucky to play at baseball. I got to play baseball, play sports for a living, and I never take that for granted. And I love to hear from fans. I still go to Milwaukee now, and still talk to some fans. So it was definitely good times.
I love it. We're just about out of time. I do want to take just a moment and thank the Legacy After the Locker Room community for being so supportive. I hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Many of our followers know that my 96-year-old grandma passed away the day before Thanksgiving, and today we were honored to have the opportunity to attend her funeral. And I just want to say life is precious. Todd, you mentioned that, don't take anything for granted. I want that to be just a gentle reminder to our listeners. Life is precious. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends. Todd, we're just about out of time. I want to give you a second to thank anybody in your family or who's supporting you, give you a chance to thank them, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I mean, I always have to thank my wife, Jennifer, my kids, Hannah, Haley, Harrison, and Declan, and my dad. They've always been there for me. They've always supported me, been through the thick and the thin, the ups and the downs. And, I'm here to support them just as the same.
Thank you so much, Todd. My name is Kayla Bradham, here tonight with Major League Baseball alumni Todd Coffey, reminding you to live your legacy. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.